All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA offseason video. In this video, we are going to talk about Peyton Watson being moved to the Cleveland Cavaliers and the responding moves that the Nuggets made to this happening. We're going to talk about from the Cavs side. Obviously, we're going to talk about from the Nuggets side and everything in between. I got some stuff here that I want to hit. Also, that the Cavs did after they got Peyton Watson. So if you like what I say, like the video. If you have any opinions, comment down below. And if you just like the vibes, consider subscribing. So yeah, it's been a little bit, guys. I recorded a bunch of videos for you guys. I've been slacking a little bit, so I felt like I needed to give you guys some content. If you want to check that stuff out, you can check that stuff out after you watch this video. There's some WNBA stuff, there's some NBA stuff in there as well. But the meat and potatoes for today, for this video, is going to be the Cleveland Cavaliers getting Peyton Watson. I feel like this was the last real domino move that needed to happen. There was another one that happened with Klay Thompson, which we'll talk about at some point in the future when we do our preseason predictions and team breakdowns and all that stuff. But this was the last big one that was like hanging out there, like that could swing a couple things. And I feel like Peyton Watson's a really good player. He didn't play a lot last year towards the end. He exploded when Nikola Jokic was out. He played really well with Jamal Murray, with Aaron Gordon, I believe, as well. They were all playing at that time when Nikola Jokic was out. Didn't play in the playoffs at all, I don't think. Maybe played in the first round. Maybe. I don't remember. It's been a little bit now. But yeah, he had a really good breakout year. We'll talk about his stats in a minute. But let me give you guys the full breakdown here of what happened. So this was 5 days ago. This is a little bit ago. This is from ESPN Shams Charania. Cleveland and Denver and the Clippers have agreed to a trade sending Peyton Watson to the Cavaliers, Max Strus to the LA Clippers, and an unprotected 2031 Cavs first round pick and a 2032 Kings second round pick from the Nuggets. Sources tell ESPN Watson will sign a new 4-year, $88 million deal to join the Cavaliers, plus a player option and a trade kicker. You get that player option and a trade kicker when Rich Paul is your agent. One of the best agents in the business. But yeah, so the Cavs relieve themselves of Max Strus, who his time in Cleveland was kind of it was hit or miss. Last year was really rough. He was a really rough watch last year, and I said it time and time again. Um, when he was out there, I was like, he sometimes he just can't shoot anymore. It was looking really bad. But he was a really good hustle guy, Max Strus. He was hustling out there. He made some really good plays, made some really clutch plays actually to close out the 2 7-game series that they did play. But it was a rough watch, and you replace him essentially with um, Peyton Watson. And we'll get to Peyton Watson here in a second, I promise. But I do want to talk about the responding moves that happened afterwards. So after this happened, James Harden agreed to a new 3-year, $97 million contract to return to the Cavaliers with a player option and a trade kicker. His agent, blah, 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 told ESPN. So the Cavs get James Harden back. So they got the Payne Watson deal done. They got James Harden. We'll talk about some of their other moves here in a little bit. Yeah, we'll talk about some of their other moves here. Like, wow, okay. And then you're going to ask yourself, well, the Nuggets didn't get anything in this deal. Why didn't they get anything in this deal? Couldn't they have gone something for Payne Watson? The Nuggets are in a rough place financially. They're pretty capped out, as it might seem right now. When you have players, you're very top heavy. Nikola Jokic is making $59 million next year. Jamal Murray is making 50. Aaron Gordon's making 31. Cam Johnson's making 23. Christian Braun's making 21. And then there's a huge drop off to everybody else. Under $10 million contracts. Zeke Naji, Julian Strother, Deron Holmes, Julian Reese, who's on a two-way, who's in Denver now. You did make some other offseason moves, and the other moves you did make after alleviating yourself from Peyton Watson, who obviously wanted a long-term deal and some money and some payment for his services that you couldn't accommodate. You have to go out and you have to get other people on the cheap. This happened after they got rid of Peyton Watson. DeMar DeRozan agreed to a 1-year deal worth $3.9 million. And then earlier in the offseason, they also signed Lonnie Walker, who I'm a big fan of. Lonnie Walker. I forgot they even signed him, so I'm happy Lonnie's back in the NBA. Almost a WNBA. But Yeah, so those are all the moves that happened um, in this deal. Obviously, Max Strus going to the Clippers, we're not going to talk about because Max Strus is sort of like a insignificant role player, and we'll talk about him on the Clippers when we get there. I want to talk about this move essentially for what it is for Cleveland and Denver. Since we're here on Denver, let's talk about it. And I'm not going to say anything new or revolutionary about the Nuggets. I feel like it's been said enough by Nuggets fans and people who talk about the Nuggets, and even people who are just like NBA fans. The Nuggets are in a really bad spot. They're in a, a tricky spot because you have a guy in Nikola Jokic who's in his prime. He's 31 years old, right? You have him under contract for essentially this year, $59 million. There was an attempt, I think, at some point in this offseason to have him sign a longer term deal. That did not happen between Nikola Jokic and the front office. Um, he will have a player option, not this year, but next year, 2027, 2028. So if it doesn't go well, he could opt out. He'd be opting out of an additional $3 million. He's making $62 million next year. But he's in his prime, and let's be quite frank about this team. And I'm not going to get too in depth because obviously, again, we're going to talk about this in like my preseason predictions and my team breakdowns. But this move impacts them a lot. You have Jamal Murray, who's going to turn 30. He's 29 right now. He hasn't looked like the same Jamal Murray. I feel like there were moments last year where he looked spectacular. He looked amazing. He looked like his old self a little bit. I just don't know, can he do that with less pieces around him, right? Because Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, pick and roll, them feeding off each other is great. You can book that as like at least a playoff team every year. It's the people around them, right? Aaron Gordon, whatever happened last postseason, not this one, but the one before that one, um, not good. I know he had some family things going on. He lost his brother. He's a lot of stuff going on, and I feel bad for him. But he just hasn't looked the same. Um, he doesn't move the same even. This was the best version of Aaron Gordon, I think. Nuggets Aaron Gordon was really good. I enjoyed Nugget, but I feel like it's come to an end. He's locked up until um, the end of essentially the 2027-2028 season. He has a player option as well. Cam Johnson's on a 1 year deal, so like if you really get desperate, you can move him probably because he's making 23 million. He hasn't been the piece that you wanted when you traded Michael Porter Jr. for him. You have Christian Braun, who you paid prematurely, I think. If you could go back and do that over, you probably pay Peyton Watson, and then you trade Christian Braun because Christian Braun's just been a disaster. Or Brown, pardon me. He's been such a disaster. He's making $21 million this year, 23, 25, 26. He's here till the 2030s. So Christian Braun is a long-term Nugget, the one that's locked up the longest here. And he's the last of your top-heavy team. Um, Again, you add Lonnie Walker, who I really like. I feel like he can feed off Jokic very well. I feel like there's a version of Lonnie Walker that works himself into a really solid role on this team, a really solid role. Um, I haven't seen him play recently. I think what was the last team Lonnie Walker played for? We can look that up. Was it the Lakers? It was the Sixers. Oh my God, no! This was the last real team he played for was the Brooklyn Nets. It was the Brooklyn Nets. He had an Exhibit 10-day with the Celtics. I don't remember that. He had a rest of season contract in 2024-2025 with the Sixers. I do remember that briefly. So this is his first time back. This is a long layoff for him. The contract is still pending, but I assume he will be on this team since they have him here on the cap sheet. I like Lonnie a lot. Moving to a player that I think I I when you look at it like this, it looks really bad. So right, you had Michael Porter Jr., right? You traded him because you just needed to make more cap space, right? So you trade him for um, Cameron Johnson, who hasn't looked great. And then you can't pay Peyton Watson because you paid Christian Braun all that money, or Christian Brown all that money. So Peyton Watson has to go. So you trade two really young, talented players, right? Michael Porter, Peyton Watson, and you get back at the end of all this, like getting rid of all this money that you need to get rid of, or else you're going to be over the second apron again, I believe. And you end up with DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan is 37 years old. He's the oldest player on this team now. Yeah, he's the oldest player on this team by a big margin. Yeah, by a big margin. And his season last year in Sacramento was just another season for him. I I like DeMar DeRozan. I like him as a person. I like him as a leader. I think he's very aware of where he is in his career at all times. And I liked him with the Bulls. The Kings just never made sense to me. When you look at this team on paper and you look at their goals, right? This team is championship or bust. It was a bad season last season, even though there were some really good moments in the regular season that provided a little bit of like hope, and you're like, oh, we could do this. I feel like the Nuggets have fallen behind the eight ball of the Western Conference so much, and if I go look at their where they were last year, right? They were the 3 seed last year, 45 and 28. Um, Again, I'm not going to do this too in depth, but whenever you have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, I trust that you're going to at least be above and above. You're going to be at least 10 games above 500 of what you usually are. So, right, um, it feels like they're in this weird spot where they can be the 3, the 4, the 5 seed. They're probably going to get bumped down by Minnesota if Minnesota has a really good year with LaMelo and Ant. The top 2 spots are taken by Oklahoma and San Antonio. You're good enough to be a majority of these Western Conference teams, right? You're good enough to be Sacramento, Memphis, Dallas, the Pelicans, Golden State, the Clippers, Phoenix, Portland. But then when you get to like this upper echelon, it feels like they've fallen so far behind. I feel like them and the Rockets are still in that same area where it's like they can have great regular seasons, they can have good regular seasons, they can have some postseason success, but it just feels like they're missing something, and I don't know what that something is. They were never in like the Giannis talks. They were never in like the Jaylen Brown talks, because they've painted themselves into this box financially where they can't. Sometimes they can't accrue contracts. They can't gain contracts in trades. They need to only get rid of contracts and get something back that's lower on the pay scale, I believe. So you're really paying yourself in this box where you're trusting Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and going to win your championship. And they've done it. They've done it before, but this is such a different NBA to what it was when they won. I mean, we can go look, right? Like, let me see. NBA championships by year, right? So let's go look at the year they won, right? Who they played. They played Miami in 2023 in the finals. Nikola Jokic was Finals MVP. Nikola Jokic led um, the playoffs or the finals in points, rebounds, assists, and win shares. Jesus, that's a crazy run. Um, so this year, right? Let's see what this year was. So, um, yeah, Finals MVP. All right, let me see here. Let me see. Okay, here we go. So in the playoffs, in the first round, in the West especially, it was Minnesota, it was Golden State, it was Sacramento. Oh, that's right, that's this year. Yeah, that was the year they played, the year the Light the Beam year. That was the Light the Beam year for the Kings. Memphis against the Lakers, Phoenix against the Clippers. Um, yeah, that was this year, and then Denver played Phoenix in the second round in the semis. The Lakers versus Golden State in the other side of the bracket in the West, and then it was Denver over Los Angeles in the Western Conference Finals. And what was this Lakers team? Who was on this Lakers team? Oh my god! So this Lakers team consisted of. Oh my god! Oh, this was the Russell Westbrook year. Oh my god! Yes. This is the Russell Westbrook year where they had like 500 players on this team. So get a load of this. I'm going on a side tangent, but this is interesting, right? So this is the team the Nuggets played in the Western Conference Finals on their way to a championship, right? This Lakers team at some point in the season consisted of Mo Bamba, Mikal Beasley, Patrick Beverley, Sterling Brown, Troy Brown Jr., Thomas Bryant, Max Christie, Anthony Davis, Wayne and Gabriel, Rui Hachimura, Shaquille Harrison, LeBron James, Damon Jones, Kendrick Nunn, Scottie Pippen Jr., Austin Reeves, Davion Reed, D'Angelo Russell, Matt Ryan, Dennis Schroeder, Cole Swindler, Tristan Thompson, Juan Toscano Anderson, Jared Vanderbilt, Lonnie Walker, Russell Westbrook. Yeah, so I'm not trying to discredit what they did when they won their championship. There was some iteration of this team I remember liking. I forget what the lineup was, but there was some iteration of this team that was halfway decent. They made it to the Western Conference Finals, for Christ's sake. So this Lakers team was good. It was a really good team. For reference, they were 43 and 39. They were a couple games above 500. This was the Darvin Ham year. Yeah, so this wasn't a bad team. It wasn't a great team, but it wasn't a bad team. And the Nuggets win that, and they go to the finals to play the Miami Heat. And the Miami Heat, this is such a lopsided finals. I feel like this is one of the most lopsided. This is one of the most forgettable finals of the last decade. This team consisted of Bam Adebayo before the 83 points. This is prime Jimmy Butler. This might have been the last grasps of prime Jimmy Butler that we had witnessed. Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, Victor Oladipo, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Omar Yurtseven, Gabe Vincent. So when the Nuggets won the championship is what I'm getting at. It was such a different NBA. And now the tables have kind of flipped on them. I don't, until I go and really look at the rosters, I feel like Houston, Lakers, and Denver, who were the 3, 4, and 5 seed last year, are just going to remain around that area. I feel like Oklahoma's still really good, despite them having to lose some assets. San Antonio is going to be really good again. And then Minnesota's the only one who I feel like has taken a huge leap and taken that full plunge into the deep end of okay, we want to be a really, really top Western Conference team. I feel like the Nuggets haven't done anything to do that. The Rockets haven't done anything to do that. And the Lakers, the only thing that keeps me patient with the Lakers is Luka being in shape. That's their offseason acquisition, is Luka coming into training camp in shape and not getting injured. That's their offseason acquisition. And when Luka was quote unquote fat, he was dropping 60, 20, and 10 in a regular season game. So skinny Luka might be different. So that's my thought process on that. But it's such a different NBA. It feels very reminiscent of this is gonna sound so crazy. When Steph Curry got injured, I believe that was like the 2019, 20 or the 2020, 2020, one of those seasons where they were really bad. I forget what year that was, but and the Warriors just trying to scrape together some talent, just trying to bring some older guys in, some veteran talent a little bit, and try to help this team, and it just wasn't working. And then you have that abnormality of 2021, 2022 where they won the championship. I don't feel like that abnormality is coming for the Nuggets. And with this looming Nikola Jokic player option, it becomes even more glaring that this team hasn't done anything to push the needle forward and to move into this different echelon in the Western Conference. If I had to stack them up against the whole league, I don't know where I'd put them because the East is really good this year. I feel like it's just in the hierarchy of the NBA in total, not just in the West. As long as you have Nikola Jokic, you're going to be good. You're going to be fine. I just don't know if it's enough anymore just to be good in the regular season. You know what I mean? I thought they could be champs last year. I thought they could be really good last year, and they just weren't. They just weren't. They had some flashes, but when it got to crunch time, it didn't look good. It didn't look good. On the flip side of that, perhaps a team that has made a lot of moves that you could say helped them a lot in moving up the ladder in the Eastern Conference. The Cleveland Cavaliers, just as of note, just to put down, returning players: James Harden, Evan Mobley, Donovan Mitchell, Jared Allen, Sam Merrill, Jalen Tyson, Craig Porter, Tyrese Proctor, some other guys here. Those are the guys returning from last year's team, right? And then coming in this year, you have Mario Hezonja making his return to the NBA on a $2 million contract, 1 year. You have Cam Whitmore. I don't even know how they got Cam Whitmore. 22 years old, making $5 million. He could be really good for them. I forgot Cam Whitmore was on this Cavs team. Um, and then obviously the most notable one that this whole video is about is Peyton Watson. Recently signed, adding him to this team where he's effectively going to be a starter. It's going to be James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Peyton Watson, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen as your starting five. And that's a crazy front line of Watson, Mobley, and Allen. They're all so lengthy, and they're all very athletic. It's going to be very annoying to get switched on to any one of those guys. You have an older James Harden at 37, who you're going to be paying if he stays until the end of his contract. He's going to be 40 years old at the end of that deal. You have Donovan Mitchell, who's 30, whose contract essentially lines up with James Harden. He has 1 extra year on top of that. Evan Mobley, same contract as Donovan Mitchell, the same length. Jared Allen on time with James Harden's contract ends the same year, 2028-2029. And then Peyton Watson's contract ends 2028-2029. So this all lines up very perfectly for a championship window of basically 3 years. 2 to 3 years, including this next year. So next year, the year after that, and the one after that. Looking at this roster finally, because I hadn't looked at this roster in totality since the trade, because I like to give my reactions to you guys and stuff. Looking at this, they feel like the Nuggets, where they are very top heavy. You have the two main guys, I guess, at this point now would be Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley making $50 million a year. Then you have like Peyton Watson making $20 million, which when you space this contract out like this is a very team-friendly deal. 20 mil here, 21, 22. It only goes up by $1 million every year for Peyton Watson, so this is a steal of a deal. And then you have the other echelon of like Jared Allen, James Harden making $28 to $29 million per year. It's going up. It's ascending. It's an ascending contract. So it's still a very top-heavy team. His team is a fair bit younger. Jared Allen's only 28. Peyton Watson's 24. Evan Mobley's 25. Donovan Mitchell's 30. James Harden's 37. Donovan Mitchell's a spry 32. He's not like an old 30. He's a very spry 30. He looks good out there. He's always looked good. But then once you get past that, like the top stuff, you start asking yourself questions like, okay, we have Sam Merrill, who played well last year. Can he do it again? Yeah, I don't know. Jalen Tyson, who I'm a huge fan of. Jalen Tyson was amazing last year. I was rooting for him the year prior to that one as well. I hope he continues to grow. Cam Whitmore, another player I'm a fan of. Just hasn't found a home. He's played well, gone through a slump, got injured, then got traded again. I hope he can at least recover some of his value. I feel like he can be a really good plug-and-play piece on this team, especially if you want him to play like maybe some 2, maybe some 4, maybe he's stuffed really in a tough spot because he's going to be behind Peyton Watson. He's going to probably be behind Jalen Tyson. And then if Mario Hezonja plays well, he's going to be behind Mario Hezonja. All those players are like wing players, like small forward, shooting guard-esque players. Going to be tough. Then you have Thomas Bryant, Naquan Tomlin, who had some good buzz at the beginning of last year but didn't really play a whole lot when it got to crunch time and you start to thin out your rotations. Craig Porter, Tyrese Proctor, and then you just start getting to some names where you're like, these people really didn't play in the playoffs, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know if coach trusts them. So when I go down this roster, right, and you look at the hopeful like rotation, you're looking at, what is this? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're looking at like 10 guys that are really going to play, and like a lot of them play the same position or like fit positionally very awkwardly with each other if they're going to play together. I don't know if I love it. Maybe there's a world in which Jalen Tyson can play some point guard for you, and that alleviates some of the stress because they don't have a backup one. It's James Harden or bust. There is no backup one here. I mean, I guess Craig Porter, if you really want to trust him. I don't know about that. I'm even extending it to a 10-man rotation because Naquan Tomlin played a lot at the beginning of last season. I assume they want him to play more next season. So there is that factor as well. But um, to get back to the Peyton Watson side of this, I like the fit. I like him getting to learn from Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, not Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. I like that idea a lot. Um, I feel like there is going to be a period in which Peyton Watson's going to have to learn to live life without Nikola Jokic because the way Nikola Jokic does things is so much different than how James Harden does it. And both of them are really supreme, really all-time great passers. But the way James Harden does it is different from the way Nikola Jokic does it because Nikola Jokic is a center and James Harden is a guard. And it's going to be different. I feel like he's going to be asked to just be, at bare minimum every night, 3 and D. That's all you need to do. We know Donovan Mitchell can score 50. We know James Harden in a regular season game can score like 40, 50 points, still at the ripe old age of 37. Evan Mobley's going to clean up the board, so you don't have to really worry about that. Jared Allen's not going to space the floor, so you're going to need to spread out your game a little bit, even though Peyton Watson does like getting to the cup every now and then. And you're going to have to be able to be worth his contract. Like I said, it's a very team-friendly deal, but at the end of the day, this team is winning now. Peyton Watson already has a ring. Yeah. Is he the only player on this team with a ring? Oh my God, he is. That's crazy. That's a crazy thought. He's the only player right now with a ring on this team. That's crazy. You have to prove that you're worth it. And I do think he will be worth it. There's a world in which he gets to the end of 2028 and he's a much improved player than he is right now. When he's already improved. So there's a world in which he keeps getting better. I don't know where I'd put the Cavs in the Eastern Conference after this move. I'd have to really sit down and think about it because the East has been shuffled up so much. I'm just looking at last season's standings. If we go like Knicks, Toronto, Atlanta, Philly, Orlando, Miami. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's pretty stuffed out in the East, man. I'd put them. Obviously, the Knicks, Philly, and Miami are just all in a different tier right now, just on paper. We haven't seen any of these teams play together except the Knicks, obviously. And then maybe you have I feel like Cleveland is still in that Toronto with Kawhi, obviously. Without Kawhi, I don't know what Toronto's going to be, but with Kawhi, I feel like Toronto, Orlando, and Cleveland are in that tier where it's okay, they have the opportunity to be really good. We just have to see them play together and see how these other teams start as well. So maybe the Cavs are still the 4th or 5th best team in the East, which is not what you want, but I'll say this about the Cavaliers also. Not last year, but the year before that one. They had a really great regular season. They went on that huge run of winning, 16 or 17 games in a row to start a season, or it might have been even more. And they didn't win the championship. And then this last year, they started the regular season off really badly. There were injuries. There was this. There was that. They did the James Harden trade. There was so there's all this stuff. And they didn't have a good regular season. They kind of picked it up in the postseason, played some 7-game series, grinded those out, and then just kind of got put through the ringer. They were just gassed by the time they got to where they needed to be, and they couldn't get over that hump. I feel like the Cavs just need to pace themselves. You need to pace yourself. You need to show dominance in these marquee games. You need to cement yourself amongst these other teams, being Philly, Miami, New York. But also it doesn't really matter what happens in the regular season. If you can get home court advantage, you go for it. It doesn't really matter. Your back's gonna be up against the wall anyway. If you're gonna play in any one of these teams, it's gonna be, I won't say it's gonna be a bad matchup, but it's gonna be a not favored matchup. If the Cavs play the Knicks, they're playing the champs. If the Cavs play the Philadelphia 76ers, I'm talking about in the playoffs, play the Philadelphia 76ers, it's LeBron, Jaylen Brown, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe. That's not a favorable matchup. If you play Miami, you're playing against Giannis, you're playing against Bam, you're playing against Klay Thompson. Shout out. You're playing against all these guys, right? It becomes very difficult for me in my mind to think that even having home court would help because it's just such a disadvantage. But I feel like if the Cavs can do a us against the world type thing, and just slowly grind through the season, get these wins that you need, really cement themselves, I feel like they could be okay. And diving into that is a topic for another day. But here at the end, I'll say this. In totality, if I had to rate this trade, I never do this. Why am I doing this? If I had to rate this trade, right? Essentially, the Denver Nuggets gave up Peyton Watson for some cap flexibility a little bit and DeMar DeRozan. I give that a C minus. I guess DeMar DeRozan around Nikola Jokic could be okay, but like I don't love it. It's a C minus. And then for the Cavs, um, I would give Peyton Watson to the Cavs, and just this moving as a whole, an A, just a solid A. It could be an A plus if Peyton Watson starts really well, plays really well. It could be an A minus if it just kind of just like looks weird, but then finally works itself out. Kenny Atkinson's a good coach. I think he could figure it out. And yeah, that's it. That's the video. Just wanted to hop on here, talk about this trade and stuff. There will be some more NBA stuff later this week. I do want to talk about, like I teased, that Klay Thompson to the Miami Heat. We haven't really talked about the Miami Heat all off season. We'll talk about that. Did I say trade? He got waived. He got released. He got his money, and then he's signing with the Heat. That's the deal. I want to talk about that because Klay Thompson is one of my more cherished players in my life. I think everybody likes Klay Thompson. If you don't like Klay Thompson, then I don't know what to say to you. And then next week will be fun because we will start doing some preseason predictions, some team breakdowns, where I think teams will end up next year, some hopefuls, some teams that are regressing. Obviously, all that stuff like we did last year. That was really fun for me. I really like doing that. And then some WNBA stuff probably at some point. So, yeah, that's it. Oh, also, I forgot to mention this. This is huge news for the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers traded Dennis Schroeder for cash considerations for to the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, I'm kidding. That was a nothing burger. That was nothing. But yeah, that's it. That's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to check out my other content, you can check out this playlist on the right. You can click that. It will pick a video, any video. It helps me out a lot. You can click this video specifically that I picked out for you on the left. You can click that video if you want to. It's something I think you guys would enjoy. Or if you just want to subscribe and come back next time and check out some new stuff at some point later this week, you can hit the little icon right in the middle of the screen, and right next to it, a little subscriber will pop up, and you can subscribe with ease. Like and comment as well, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.